Welcome to the Troxel Podcast. I'm Evan Troxel, and in this episode, I welcome Cesar Escalante. Cesar is a practicing architect turned technologist who now serves as Global Technical Marketing Manager at Autodesk and is the current chair of AIA's Technology and Architectural Practice, aka TAP, Knowledge Community. His career connects design, technology, and leadership, from being the first in school to use AutoCAD, to helping firms adopt BIM and computational design, and now to leading national conversations that bring together sustainability, codes, and technology. Born and educated in El Salvador before completing graduate work at the University of Texas, Cesar has worked in small practices, large firms, and tech companies, giving him a unique perspective on how the tools we use shape the work we do. In this episode, we talk about the idea of practical AI in architecture, what it really means for firms today, and how smaller practices can make meaningful progress without getting overwhelmed. We also discuss TAP's recent sold-out symposium, how the committee is connecting different parts of the industry, and the group's effort to recreate technology recipes that firms can actually put into practice. Along the way, Cesar shares his thoughts on risk, interoperability, IP, and how major shifts in the economy or technology can open new doors for those willing to adapt. One of the most interesting threads in this conversation is the arc of reinvention, how curiosity and adaptability can shape a career. Cesar's story starts with being that person in the office who's always experimenting with new tools. Maybe you can relate. Over time, each challenge and industry shift became an opportunity to build new skills and take on new roles, even if he didn't see those coming. That same mindset now drives his work leading TAP, where he's helping connect knowledge communities that don't often overlap in official settings, like those focused on codes, sustainability, and technology, to move the profession forward in a more coordinated way. It's a great reminder that innovation in our field usually happens through people who are willing to stay curious, explore the edges of the profession, keep learning, and bring others along for the ride. As always, you'll find more information in the show notes. You can find them in your podcast app if you're a supporting Troxel Plus member, or at the podcast website, which is trxl.co if you're a free member. And if you enjoy these conversations, please share the episode with your colleagues or jump into the discussion with me on LinkedIn or YouTube. I really enjoyed this one. So now, without further ado, here's my conversation with Cesar Escalante. Cesar, welcome to the podcast. It has been in the books, in the making for a while now. I mean, obviously, I've been aware of you way before where you are currently. You were involved in a lot of technology, what should we say, industry groups, Dynamo groups, Revit groups in the Bay Area, and before you are where you are now. But I would love it if you could kind of tell us a story of how you got into architecture, technology, eventually Autodesk, and the AIA Technology and Practice group. So let's go for it.
I'm an architect. I'm based in California, San Francisco. My current role is Global Technical Marketing Manager at Autodesk. I am a spokesman of innovation coming out of the product line focused on building and architecture. I've been here for about 5 years. But at the core,
already,
it's
Jeez.
10 flies.
That's flying by. Yeah.
Yeah. And, but prior to joining Autodesk, I work as an architect for about 20 years. And I study architecture in El Salvador. That's where I'm from originally.
Okay.
I studied my Bachelor of Architecture at Universidad Centroamericana in El Salvador. And I'm not going to say the years. But
when you just said that you were in the industry for 15 and then you've been at Autodesk now for 5 years, I'm like, you do not look a day over 32, I'm going to say.
Well, thanks for the compliment. But, back when I was a student of architecture, I was one of the first, I was the first person in my tier who presented design works in AutoCAD. And I remember unfolding a very old set of prints in laser dot printer to my teachers, and they were like, "Oh, what is this? This is AutoCAD." And I think I was using AutoCAD 20, no, it was AutoCAD 6 or 7, and they were
Okay.
just very, very impressed about computer-aided design. Um, and I opened a big debate inside the faculty about what this
For sure.
mean for education and for
Yeah.
practice. And I was I moved some influences to get the first computer at my university. It's a very, very old desktop, but and my work was displayed as in a gallery in the lobby of the university as this is introduction of the CAD, and those
Into the
were good
program.
times into the program.
I
Yes.
so what's interesting is okay, so we're rough, similar as far as like I was one of the first as well, and it was met with so much friction in my program. And what I wanted to kind of just go over real quick was it sounds like they were like, "Whoa, what's this?" Really curious about what you were doing, but also and putting it on display and welcoming it because I think that wasn't my experience. My experience wasn't a bad experience where I was, but it wasn't welcomed. There was a lot of friction. There was a lot of pushback because it wasn't the training that they were supplying, and it wasn't the training that they had when my professors who were I was looking to the side because I'm looking for I actually still have my rapidograph ink pens over here somewhere, and I was looking because when you had to hand draw you had to pick the different line weights with the pen that you used if you were doing ink on vellum or ink on mylar, and what a painstaking process that was, right? And I have kind of mixed feelings to this day about being able to draw lines and then just delete them or move them or all the modern kind of affordances that computers give you because you just don't have to be as committed and careful and all of those things like when you're actually drawing with pens. And obviously drawing with graphite is a different story. We all had electric erasers and eraser templates and all of those tools as well, because yeah, you could just erase a line. But if you did it in ink, it was not an easy process a lot of times you would just start drawing over again, right? Because it was going to look terrible on the page and obvious that you had drawn a line or something in the wrong place and had to get rid of it, right? Because it would actually chew up the material that you were drawing on, and it was obvious to see that. So just an interesting point that how you talked about how you were in a gallery and it was on display and it was like here comes the next thing,
Yeah.
and that they did that.
And I have to say that this is the result of the confluence of two things. My dad was a general contractor who had a developer office back in the days, and he bought a personal computer for his practice with
Mm-hmm.
a whole box of AutoCAD. Who
Mm-hmm.
he did not understand how to use. He
Sure.
thought it was good, but
Yeah.
I learned it from uh, English manual. I mean, back then AutoCAD came with these really thick manuals,
Sure.
so I read it from to
All
end.
software did. All software came with volumes of
Volumes.
manuals, right?
There were
Yes.
5
Yeah, it was a
volumes. I
big
can remember that.
yes.
And me being trained in school in English, I learned it very quickly. I picked it up. Uh, and then the second thing that influences that as a student, I interned at an architectural office where a fresh graduate, well, a young architect come from who studied at University of Texas, uh, was supporting the production of architectural work. And she teaching me the way to produce construction documentation. It was one of probably on the first offices who use AutoCAD. And so this combination of, I had an AutoCAD at home and I'm being
That was
trained by
huge.
this new person, new professional from the US, that opened up a new door into technology that I had not
For sure.
anticipated. It gave me a
For
big
sure.
competitive advantage. I would
Yeah.
say that.
Wow.
Um,
And then the other thing you mentioned was printing, and you said like you printed it out on like what kind of printer did you print?
It
Do you
was a
remember?
dot matrix,
Dot
and
matrix printer. Okay, so those
yeah,
things make this terrible sound as they're printing on, and the paper has the hole punched edges to roll through the machine at the right amount each time a line needed to advance forward. I mean, this is before laser printers, this is before inkjet printers, this is before even laser printers, I think. And and so you're talking about like 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, I assume.
and they had like a wide format. I think it was maybe 17 inches wide.
11 by
Uh,
17. Wow.
yes.
That probably cost $5,000 by itself, like just that printer, right? So it was things were really expensive. So this was a huge investment on your dad's part, right? To buy this machine, to buy the software, to buy the printer, and then you still have all these limitations that you had to deal with, right? With printing and right, you didn't get D size sheets or E size sheets or anything like that. You had smaller stuff to work with, and this was before pen plotter days. So it was probably about the same time, but that was a whole other technology, right? You could actually buy a pen plotter with different types of pens, and it would swap out the pens and draw the lines, and that was really fun. We had one of those in school too. But wow, I mean, it's just fun to go back down memory lane here and be nostalgic as we kick things off for this conversation. It's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. And so um, I became an evangelist of technology from those very early years
Nice.
because I needed to explain what this was about, how it was used, and what is the value that it brings to my professors,
Mm-hmm.
and then make a value proposition to support the uh, procurement of the first computer lab at the university. I taught computer aided design on my 5th year. And as
Okay.
soon as I graduated, I got a scholarship to study at University of Texas, who
Okay.
was the university that my mentor went. And so I study a master's in design with climate because the word sustainability wasn't around back then.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Right.
and I did a 2-year program and then another master's degree in urban planning, another 2-year program. So I studied 4 years in Texas. And then I moved to the Bay Area, where I've been ever since.
So can I just talk about the culture differences going from El Salvador to where was it in Texas? Where's the university?
Austin.
Austin. Okay. So, I mean, Austin wasn't the Austin it is today back then, right? I'm sure
Exactly.
it was probably pretty different. And then to San Francisco, to the Bay Area. I mean, those are three, what I assume are three very different cultures. And was that something that was really amazing to experience? Was it very difficult? Like what was that like?
Um, it was a culture shock. I mean, for a young guy in my 20s, who never flown off in airplane before, moving to Texas was hard at the beginning. I had to refine my academic English big time. That put me in a disadvantage with other people.
And you just have
With
to do that at the same time you're doing your schooling, right? Like
exactly,
you just had multiple jobs to do all at the same time because of that
ex-
disadvantage.
exactly.
Wow.
Um, then culturally, Texas is um, well, Austin was like a bubble in the middle of Texas. College town, still very well known for its music history.
Hmm.
Uh, I joined a very small program. It was 7 of us, I believe, in the master program for two
Wow.
years, and but they devoted a lot of resources. I was part of a exchange program that sent us to London and Amsterdam. So for me, it was like it opens a new world that I had never expected, uh, and I had great mentors and professors who supported my academic work, and I also work in at the university as a computer assistant in the lab assistant because I have experience with CAD and I could explain terminology to students. And that's helped me go through afford some of the living expenses of going through college. So I
Mm.
owe a lot to technology. You
Mm.
know? Obviously, I did not like the geography of Texas. It's all flat, very cold winters, very, very hot and humid summers. I thought the rest of the United States was like Texas.
Of course,
And
yeah.
when I went on um, a summer trip to San Francisco, I saw a completely different world, and I say, "Oh, this is where I want to go
Wow.
after graduation."
Wow. Very
Uh,
cool.
and My first job as an recent graduate in urban planning was called urban researcher, and what that means, it was I thought it was very academic work, but when I was being interviewed by this small firm that no longer exists, I think it's called Three Divisions, they were asking me, "How good are you at riding bikes? What would you do if you get challenged by somebody on the streets? Um, if a dog follows you, what would you do?" Like, what the hell is
So
this?
were alarms going off? Like, what is going on? Why are you asking me this stuff? Because there's what you see, and then there's what you actually experience when you live there, and those are probably two very different things.
Yeah. So it turned out that the Three Divisions had a um, consultant work for the city of Oakland with the goal of survey digitally every corner intersection of the streets and validate whether the ramps were compliant or not. And so my job
Oh
was
yeah.
to be on a bicycle 7 hours a day with a handheld device connected with Esri databases and
Wow.
plug every corner and measure it and document whether it was compliant or not. So yes, I think I walked the entire city of Oakland, and that's probably I'm so dark in my skin from hours of being
So
under the sun.
so did you actually get chased by dogs and all of those things that they had asked you about when you were interviewing?
No, but people confuse me as a police agent, and they would run out of businesses thinking that
You're doing surveillance.
I'm doing surveillance or giving them traffic tickets.
Wow.
So I was international student. I was not a U.S. resident, and the pressure mounted because in the graduate programs or educational programs offer 1 year OPT, they call it, which is an opportunity to work for a year after graduation.
Mhm.
And if you can find a sponsor to allow you to stay in the United States, you have to leave the country. And so I basically search everywhere for an opportunity to work. And it turned out that the positions available for H-1B visas are technology focused, math and science. Architecture is considered one of those fields where you can get a sponsorship. Urban planning is a social science in the books of the state, and
Interesting.
that's why
Hmm.
I couldn't practice urban planning at all. So I ended up
Mm.
taking a very low pay job uh, for standards of San Francisco, working as a cat monkey
Yeah.
for a very, very small firm. And in this firm, I did all the AutoCAD work. Uh, but 7 years with them, I was able to help them secure my green card
Hmm.
through a sponsorship. Now that's very difficult to do nowadays. Uh, and yeah, I that opened the door for greater and better opportunities. Um,
Wow.
so it's I jumped from a firm of 12 people to Flat Architects, which is a 100 person company. 12 people, 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 which is a 100 person company a corporate office based on the Midwest, where I worked for about 4 years as a project architect capacity. One of the feature projects there was the new Salesforce campus that was never built in San Francisco, designed by Ricardo Legorreta in Mexico City. And
cool.
because I knew Spanish and FLAD was big on BIM, I was sent to train Ricardo Legorreta's office in Mexico City for 6 months. And I get to know the city, work with a very high-profile architect, help them transform their internal operations. That was very satisfying
I bet.
to do. Yeah.
And Mexico City is wonderful. In my experience, yeah, it's just an incredible place.
Yes, it is. Full of contrast, full of rich food, and great people.
Yeah.
So after working with FLAD, I think that was 2012. I switched. I switched careers, and then I went to work for ID8, a reseller of Autodesk products that had an educational department and a consultant division to support firms in the process of implementing BIM.
Mm-hmm.
So my job was to teach Revit and support companies move from 2D to BIM. And I did that for about 4 years. And in that capacity, I train big corporate firms. I build relationship with people from Gensler, people from HOK, and as a result of a relationship, I end up securing a job at HOK as a regional design technology manager in the San Francisco office, supporting about 200 people in the West Coast. And that opened also the door for more technology exposure and advising teams on how to align and the best tools for the different scope of work, helping teams write BIM execution plans, what a BIM manager would do. Then I switch companies to Gensler. The San Francisco office landed with one of the biggest projects in the West Coast back then. The Santa Clara City Center is about 1.2 billion square foot, 300 acres of land, one of the last few remaining big spots next to Levi Stadium. I was a BIM director for that project, and then COVID hit. And as a result, I lost my position there. And I started to look everywhere, somewhere else. That's where I joined Autodesk. And I've been here for 5 years, yes.
Let's take a quick break from the conversation to tell you about AVAIL. Is your team struggling to find the BIM assets they need? AVAIL's content management system simplifies access to all of your firm's content in one easy-to-use platform. No matter where your files live or what type of files they are, you can easily search and access them from AVAIL. Now, designers can consistently find and reuse all types of content. So what does that mean? Well, standards-compliant models and drawings are easier to create. The documentation process is less chaotic. New hires are easier to onboard. Projects are delivered faster with fewer errors. You get the idea. Visit getavail.com to try AVAIL for free and request a free demo. That's getavail.com, getavail.com. My thanks to AVAIL for supporting this episode of the Troxel Podcast. And now let's get back to the conversation. Wow. And you, I'm curious about, just as we're still kind of in your story state, the transition from CAD to BIM, that sounds like it happened at FLAD for you. what was that like for you? Was it easy, natural? Was it difficult? I mean, obviously you had a technology background, so it probably wasn't as difficult as somebody picking it up for the first time, right? But it was a paradigm shift back then, even, and many times teams would just declare bankruptcy on projects and just export to AutoCAD, right? We can't take it anymore. Everything's broken because nobody really knew how to use BIM super effectively in the beginning. It was a learning process, and we spent a lot of time learning on projects and breaking tons of stuff. And so, like I said, a lot of people would just hit the eject button and go back to AutoCAD. But I'm just curious what that process was like for you as a technology native, I think, at that point, right? But also a paradigm shift.
I think I skipped that part of the story and I should go and revisit it. In the recession in 2007, the small firm where I was CAD manager saw a big loss of income and I was let go. Curiously, that happens like a month after receiving my green card. And it was just an alignment of the stars, because if I had let go during the process, I would have been forced to return to El Salvador. But
Yeah.
here I am with a green card, unable to find jobs during the 2007 recession. And I say, well, I need to do something different. So I think I enrolled a Revit class at San Francisco State, taught
Mm.
by a civil engineer, or a mechanical engineer, Elisa Mose. If you're hearing this, thank you for teaching me Revit. And I liked the software so much that I did the 3 levels that they offer back then. And then I spent the next 2-3 months looking for a job. I couldn't land on anything. So I put a Craigslist ad offering tutorial services of Revit for I think $12 an hour. And to my surprise, I started getting calls and emails from a lot of corporate people who wanted to learn Revit. And in less than a month and a half, I have my living room full of people with their laptops trying to learn Revit and coming with their own projects, with their own issues, trying to help me solve. And I have to be honest, many times I did not know how to resolve a lot of the issues, but it gave me the challenge to understand how to move forward. And I became a problem solver for a lot of them and the go-to person for support. And so from that engagement with as a tutor, I got a call from an ex-colleague who used to work with me in this small firm, and I work for Vlad. And he said, hey, we're looking for somebody who knows Revit, and you've been teaching Revit, and that got me a job. And so
Nice.
it's those moments of recession downturn, that I have made switch in my career path. At first,
Yeah.
the first recession where I lost a job moved me into Revit, into learning Revit. And then COVID is the one who made me switch from architectural practice into Autodesk. And so
Yeah.
it's interesting, that alignment of
Yeah.
recessions with career switches.
Yeah. Pivot, right? Because but also credit to you for being like you had to hustle and you did, and you figured out a way to make something work, which of course you didn't foresee those opportunities. You were just trying to get by and survive. And through that natural process of just hustling, it just opened up these people saw what you were doing. It's so interesting to think about, like, you're doing this for one reason, but then there's people from the outside seeing what's happening, maybe checking in every once in a while. And obviously you have friends in the industry and you're talking every once in a while and about different experiences. And then somebody else connects the dots and they're like, oh, Cesar's the one we need to call for this. That's really interesting. It's very cool.
Yeah. And I think that as a professional coming from a different country where English is not my native language, I always felt in a position of disadvantage. But my like my affinity for technology to understand workflows and process and technology processes give me a stepping stone to move forward in my career in a different path, not in the traditional sense of designer, project manager, or but in a path that I could not imagine it would turn this way. So
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
way, I was forging my path
Right.
because there wasn't any precedent back in those days on how you could be a technology leader. These roles were just coming up in the market, right? And so
Yeah, they were being invented as needed. And
exactly.
yeah, and you were at the right place at the right time and ahead of the curve, as it were, right? Because you already knew how to use the tools when somebody finally realized that they needed somebody who knew how to use the tools. And I mean, that's rare too. A lot of times I think people are in a position of, we're behind. How do we, okay, what are we going to do to catch up? And for you to already have been there, like, so you could just step right in is just, like you said, you had kind of unintentionally forged that path, but it really worked out in your favor.
And
It's really
at
cool.
the beginning, I saw it as a diversion from a traditional path that put me
Yeah.
in the wrong direction because
Yeah.
there
Right.
wasn't any role model that I could follow. And like, oh shit, I'm doing this as consulting
Totally.
for a
You're
CAD.
always wondering. Yeah. I mean, how much like stress did you have? Or I would imagine it sometimes that is overwhelming. It's like, I'm not doing the thing that is obvious, the thing that they say that you have to do. One of these three roles. You can be a designer, you could be a project manager, you could be a technical person in a firm. Like that was it.
Yes,
And then
exactly.
all of a sudden there was other roles because the necessity arose, but there's a lot, I think, a lot of consternation around what am I doing going down this other path that is not defined.
And at some point, I just considered this a temporary patch in my career. That I said,
Yeah.
I'm just going to do this for temporary while I land into something better. But it turned
Right.
out that something better was open up in front of me on the
Right.
technology side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Without planning it. It was more as a result of business and industry changes around technology needs. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of really important messages in there. So I'm glad we took the time to kind of go through your story. And so now I want to shift gears and talk about how you first started to get involved in the TAP side of things. So if you could just really quickly. So we've had a previous episode. I had Ryan Cameron on, who was the previous chair of TAP, on the podcast maybe about a year ago, and we talked about what TAP was up to then. But I'm curious about how you, if you could just step back and for those who missed that one or don't know what TAP is, if you could explain what it is, but then let's tell the story of how you got it started to get involved with that.
Yeah, TAP is a technology in architectural practice knowledge community that sits under the national AIA that advise the AIA about their institutional positioning and adoption of technology in architectural practice. We are a group of 5 people coming from industry with a lot of different practice areas and expertise who uh, 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 work in creating different type of initiatives in support of the technology needs of the AIA. We have, I started engaging in AIA activities as a result of my involvement with the Dynamo user group. So when I was working at HOK as a design technology manager, I welcomed the visit of Colin McCroon, who back then was the technology evangelist for Dynamo, and he gave us a presentation. Hey, this is Dynamo. You can bend Revit into doing something that's not meant to do. And I got super excited. I got so into it that I started talking with peers in the design community in San Francisco, and we formed this user group that meets once a week, once a month just to talk about how to use Dynamo. And so after I left HOK, we didn't have any place to meet. And I reached out to the AIA and said, can we use your space to hold these meetings? And we did that for a couple of years, continued doing, expanding the focus of this user group into computational design, work processes. And then the AIA approached me and say, hey, I think there's an opportunity here to make this group under the AIA. Would you be interested to lead that? And yes, the group was changed name from Dynamo User Group to, back then it was the Design Technology Knowledge Community. And then I did that for a couple of years. Then I was invited to sit in the board of directors of the AIA San Francisco. And from there, I became aware of what TAP National was and started bridging conversations at the AIA convention on who they were. I met Ryan Cameron from the same circle of Dynamo enthusiasts. And I think I came across Brian at a corridor in Aarhus University, and he told me that he was part of TAP and that he was working on advising the AIA. And I say, hey, how can I be part of that? And he invited me to apply. I got picked up, and the leadership of TAP, it's on a rotational basis. You get to be the chair of the committee on your third year of 5 volunteer mandatory years. So I'm the chair right now, getting close to my to the end of my commitment period. And as a chair, you lead the program and the definition of the annual TAP Symposium, which is the event where you and I met last couple of years. This year, I think. That's where last I saw you. The TAP Symposium is our signature event that it was first conceived as a pre-conference of the AIA National Convention, and now it's part of the technology focus themes in the program of the convention. And so I am this year I focus in creating a program around sustainability and technology in conjunction with the AIA COTE committee. Dan Stein, who is member of the AIA National, agreed to collaborate with us in this joint program. And we were able to put together a very interesting and successful program. We invited Corey Square to talk about the impacts of AI in design and sustainability. Very inspirational. And we have 3 panel discussions. One focus on sustainability certification and how technology supports certification strategies, and the rise of a lot of local and state carbonization regulations. Another big panel was focused on reducing carbon emissions through technology and the use of LCA tools. Ian Molloy from Autodesk, Jack Rusk was part of that. Phil Northcote. And in the afternoon, we had a couple other panels, ways to implement strategies for decarbonization on small and medium firms. And then we had we closed with a panel about uh, different technology recipes for different practices. Because I think one of the goals in the symposium was not only display what's new and what's our some of the challenges that the industry has around decarbonization, but also what are practical things and takeaways in the form of technology recipes that practitioners can take home and start using and building new offerings and new services around decarbonization. So my whole thing at the TAP has been really focused on sustainability, how technology supports sustainability practice. We the event got a lot of positive feedback. I think this partner, for the first time, there's a symposium that saw the presence of two committees working together, COTE and TAP. We had about 200 people in the room. It was sold out. And yeah, now we are in the process of assembling a task force for next year TAP Symposium, led by next year chair Vicky Harris, or Ricky Patel from HKS is the incumbent in the new chair. And the focus for next year, I think, is practical AI. Still, the themes are getting formed, but it's something around AI, how AI can be adopted right away.
Let's take a short break from the conversation to invite you to join the most influential technology leaders in the AEC industry at Confluence. Composed of in-person events and a podcast co-hosted by yours truly, Confluence is designed to foster conversations between AEC firms and technology companies so they can learn, share, and engage with each other to support industry innovation. Software company AVAIL, which creates content management solutions for the AEC industry, started hosting Confluence events in 2019 to understand what firms are needing, wanting, and thinking around technology. To learn more about Confluence, explore upcoming events, and listen to podcast episodes, go to confluence.getavail.com. My thanks to Confluence for supporting this episode of the Troxel Podcast. And now, let's get back to the conversation. I think the theme, wasn't it, the one before the last symposium was also about AI. You had Mehdi Norbukresh and Phil Bernstein speak, and then you had some panel discussions around that as well. And obviously it's changing under everybody's feet all the time. So the topic will likely shift between now and then. But it's really interesting to me to hear how you're working with other knowledge communities and to build bridges. I mean, it's also interesting to me to think about, and I'm curious from your perspective, how you've seen the growth of the AIA TAP knowledge community during your tenure being a part of it. Just what have you observed as far as like people's participation? It seems like, you said that the event sold out. It seems like there's more interest all the time, obviously from a focus on this podcast. And I'm sure that the people who listen to this podcast are very aware that technology touches every single part of practice. And it's only getting bigger and bigger all the time as far as like how we do anything anymore, right? It's gone from the day of you were the one student using AutoCAD to there isn't a student who does anything by hand anymore practically, right? It's completely shifted. And thus the practice of architecture is completely shifted. And so that one knowledge community out of, how many did you say? 5? I mean, it's not that many knowledge communities, right? So, but it's a huge, it's become this, like I said, it touches everything. So I'm just curious that as far as participation, with the events that you're running, there's regional events, there's like kind of local events, there's national events. What have you seen as far as participation and just interest in this part of the overall the professional organization of the AIA?
Yeah. So, uh, when I was pitching the idea of the TAP symposium to my colleagues, I did some research and I was digging some numbers on what is the interest in technology in the industry. So I came across a work in progress report from NCARB, the 2023 NCARB analysis of practice, that some of the metrics presented there were pretty interesting. One of the survey results indicated that 89% of national firms are interested in adopting new technology, and that 92% of all firms are looking adaptable professionals in technology as the first skill from graduates out of school. That's a staggering number. And so the expectations of the use of technology it was very high. And then the number of submissions of technology-related talks and discussions at the AIA saw a big increase from 2020 to 2025. It's almost it was 10 times where it was before. And so I think the trend of the interest of technology as a vertical topic in the architectural discussions and architectural forums, it was astounding. It's pretty high. And I think we need to capitalize in the interest that the community has, because technology seems to be this thread that connects all the different knowledge community, practice, design for equity is interested in technology, education, committee for residential design. And all out there asking questions about how technology can support it. And I think the AI realized that it was time to get technology as a standalone vertical that could be visible in our in the national convention. And we as a committee are asked to participate in vetting now the technology focus submittals. We have a greater presence in discussions across different groups. We are brought in as subject matter experts when committees need an advice on how to start looking at AI within their own domains. The AIA infrastructure is undergoing some changes to try to consolidate a lot of the forum discussions with the use of AI to try to help architects arrive to the question they're asking about technology across all these different committees. So I think our presence with the AIA has been instrumental in leading the conversations around technology. And the other thing that we're working, but it seems to be a little challenging, it's in reinvigorating the network of local TAP chapters across the United States. There are different degrees of participations in different AI chapters. Big metropolitan cities obviously have the strongest one, but there are smaller offices that have reached out and asked us, how do we start a TAP in our city? And one of the things the committee is working and has a task force is to write a playbook on how to get started a TAP committee with language that can be used across the different AI offices in the United States. So the other is we have individuals in our community that have years of experience on use, implementation, and adoption of technology, and this uh, allow us to put forward uh, and curate programming webinars, talks, case studies that inform the community. For example, I've been a lot of us in the committee have arms in different industry events where we're asked to participate as subject matter experts. And so between the five of us, we could easily put together a lot of important thought leadership webinars and AIA vetted um, talks. And right now we're working about how we can produce more of that content or reach our network to bring more people into creating content that are interested and aligned with what the architects need. AI is the biggest one for sure.
Yeah. It also seems though that like this, of course this is volunteer positions, right? And so the leadership is it all volunteer?
It is volunteer, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
So all this work that you're talking about is in addition to your day job and the commitments and the travel and the meetings and all that stuff. So, I mean, this stuff takes time naturally to do. I guess I'm just curious if you could talk a little bit about what you feel like, how you feel like you're accomplishing your goals from at that level. And of course, like this is all in addition to the regular work you're doing. And I only say that just to say like it's a very respectful thing that you're doing. I want to give you the respect that you deserve for it because it's not easy to do this in addition to what you're doing. And I could also imagine on some level it's pretty frustrating, like the speed at which things move, because there just isn't, you can't dedicate all the time that it needs to actually move the needle faster. So, like, what does that bring up when I bring up those things? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think everyone who's part of the TAP leadership group, it's in a position in leadership within their own organizations. No
Mm,
one, no one here is. Everybody's busy, and
yeah,
everybody
for
has
sure.
big agendas. I think. I don't know. I think when you're passionate about the goals and the objectives of an organization that's aligned with your interests, and that you know that it may leave an imprint in the way the industry is moving, you just make it happen. We make
Yeah,
time to meet on a monthly basis, and
yeah,
although we all have busy schedules, we all spread in different initiatives. We all make time to participate in the calls, uh, play active roles in the execution of these initiatives over time. And if you're there, it's because you're passionate.
yeah,
And we make time. We basically make time.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and uh, and not only that, there's people who also not only sit in this committee. Vicky, for example, she not only leads the BEAM uh, initiative at HKS, she's also a mother, and she's part of the AIA TAP. She's also part of the AIA newly formed AI task force. How she does all that, it's also, I mean, I think we're moved by the passion and the common goal of trying to make some changes, some imprint in how
For sure.
uh, we look technology through practice. Yeah.
So I want to ask you about this. You talked about how you're advising the AIA at large, and obviously these other groups are, interested in technology and adoption and implementation and what would work, what would help for them. And how does that How do you handle that? Because to me, it seems like, okay, on one level, amazing that they're asking. And on another level, it's like we should have been asking that 5 years ago. So, because I mean, this is a big organization, right? Things do not flow quickly, when it comes to, solving these issues, getting people up to speed. I've been there, done that too, right? With adoption and implementation and all of those. It's difficult. And so, I mean, what's your sense about the speed at which the organization for this profession moves, reacts, is proactive? Is it not proactive? I don't know. Like, you tell me kind of where do you guys, where do you fall on those different spectrum of different things that are, I mean, these are real things, and the profession, not the professional organization, is criticized often for uh, slowly adopting technology or slowly reacting or sitting on the sidelines and watching. And obviously, as well as I do, amazing technology has been implemented. The profession has changed drastically since we have become a part of it, right? As far as it comes to technology. And yet, I mean, there's still a long ways to go. You look at adjacent industries who are really plowing ahead full force. And I think there's still a lot of architects on the sidelines just watching and waiting.
Yeah. I think a lot is coming not from AI leadership, but for AI constituents. There's been multiple surveys through the past couple of years asking our members what you care about, what are the things that you would like us to serve, what you would like the AI to serve. And
Mm-hmm.
technology comes at the first, one of
Mm-hmm.
those things that comes at the first answer. And I think the need for our constituents to stay current, that understand how technology evolves and how it's going to impact their practice, is a reality, and it's a source of anxiety for a lot of our members. And the need for answers and guidance is has reached out to the strategic um, uh, leadership levels on the AIA, and so we continually receive the feedback from AI liaisons in our group that how instrumental our role is, not only for what we do, but for the members at large. And I think the main things that we're hearing people being interested is how to address risks and liabilities brought by technology, as the technology become more digital through AI, and questions of how IPs are respected, how data and interoperability protect intellectual property. It's at the core of our members' concerns, and I think TAP, from the experience we have leading these topics in our own practices, in our own domains, we are at a position that give us some authority and provide some answers. I don't think we have all the answers, but I think we can help facilitate those guidance.
Yeah.
The other is the inequities, the potential inequities that technology can do by creating a digital divide between those who can afford technology through deep pockets and those small firms that do not. And
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah, I was going to bring up that anxiety you talked about earlier, because the majority of AIA membership is very small firms, 1 to 5
exactly.
people. It's more than 80%. It's probably higher than that. And it's interesting to, the group who makes up the AIA committee, the leadership is from large firms or large technology companies, right? And so obviously that's also that there's a benefit there because you've done that, you've implemented, you understand technology at a very high level. But you still have to have that empathy of being able to stand in the shoes of the people who you were just referencing, right? Who don't have the revenue stream to support, 30 different subscriptions to software to do all the things and to keep up with learning them and to implement those and have standards and et cetera, et cetera. So this is a big spectrum that you're representing when it comes to technology integration and the practice of architecture.
Indeed. And I think, well, we have big firms represented in the committee. Sarah Lauderman and Brent Monty from mid-sized firms, we would say. But I think we are listening. I mean, we understand that the need of pushing equitable access of technology and ensuring that the access of technology doesn't create further inequities, and that's higher up in the strategic council agenda. And I think in response to that, well, first, the symposium for next year is really a big part of the program is not only to move us away from the vision on what AI can create or could create, and make it more on the practical side. What can you, as a small practitioner, can do with the tools available today to enhance the operations of your practice and align it to an AI-imbued firm? And I think that's the focus that Vicky wants to move the needle for next year. It's still forming, so don't quote me that that's the final topic, but that's part of the discussions that we're currently having. And then the other initiative that is taking time to bake, and I think Ryan may have spoken to you about this, is the need to support a database that provides a toolkit for small practitioners. In other words, based on the experience that large firms had from testing technology, what are the low-hanging fruits in technology that practitioners who are thinking and opening new practices, or small practices that are thinking in modernizing their operations and who do not have the resources to test, evaluate, and adopt, what can they do easily? What recipes they can have easily to modernize and transform their firms? And I think that's an important initiative. And it's the ultimate goal is to have a dynamic database of readily available, low to free cost technology that's proven to be effective, that's proven to elevate or improve the operations of firms, from project management to design, and act as a readily available database that firms can use, looking to adopt and modernize their operations.
Hey everyone, let's take a quick break from the conversation to pay some bills around here. This episode of Troxel is brought to you by Troxel Plus members. That's right, my incredible paid supporter members are making this episode possible. Their direct support ensures that I can continue exploring the intersection of architecture, technology, and the future of design with the leading voices in our industry directly to you. So let's talk about why you might consider financially supporting the podcast too. By becoming a Troxel Plus supporter, you're not just helping sustain these conversations, you're also gaining exclusive benefits like ad-free episodes of the show and my Leadership Edge email newsletter, where I analyze episodes and deliver the insights and key takeaways right into your inbox. Your small contribution makes a huge impact. And if you've been enjoying Troxel and want to be part of the community that keeps it thriving, please consider joining today. Head on over to trxl.co and click the subscribe button either in the upper right-hand corner or at the bottom of the page, or you can visit the link that I've put into the show notes. Once again, my sincerest thanks to the Troxel Plus members who have made this episode of the podcast possible, even though they aren't even hearing this ad because theirs are ad-free. Now, let's get back to the conversation. When you say database, are you talking about just like a proven set of tools that will create some kind of results, or are you actually talking about project level data that would be accessible to a wider audience?
It's just tools.
Okay.
Tools, yeah.
So you're basically coming up with a tool stack for maybe different levels of firms who are looking to get started in doing something. Maybe it's in the sustainability column, or maybe it's in the design delivery column. I don't know what the different columns are, right? But then you're basically saying, here are the proven players in that area that you should definitely check out based on the information you have.
Yeah, and based on realist and on proven outcomes. Because a lot of tools are proof of concept that are really focused on doing a certain things really good. But when it comes
really
to but it comes to scale it and wide adoption, it's not ready there. And I think we want to stay away from those technologies. And large firms have had the capacity to understand what works and what doesn't work. And in that experience, there are things that are very expensive and there are things that are readily available at a very low cost. And I think exposing that know-how to small firms is something that
there's value there.
There's value. Yeah. There's a big value there.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been through that process and okay, this works for this reason, that information should be given away to the profession to help accelerate adoption, so that they don't have to do, all these small firms don't have to do all the testing and the vetting and spinning their wheels to come to the same conclusions, right? That seems obvious.
And then the other things that I think people is really interested is understanding and addressing the risks and liabilities that AI may pose. That's a gray area that's still
changing, all the time.
Yeah, and so we're not lawyers, but we are in task force or within organizations that have these conversations. And I think the reason of making these webinars and this symposium is to bring people who can give us a fresh outlook on where we stand on these questions, how intellectual property is being challenged by these machine learning processes or AI, and how the new interoperability, collaboration tools, cloud connected data, how do architects protect their work, and how the notion of protecting work needs to change to accommodate this work. So it's those are important topics that I think we care.
Yeah. So you mentioned early on in the conversation kind of this paradigm shift of you being the first CAD, drafter. You did your projects in school in CAD, and obviously things have progressed way, way, way beyond that, and you've seen all of it, right? And so I want to put you on the spot, but I hope you'll play along, which is, I think as we close out the conversation, are there any conversations happening in these larger communities? And it doesn't have to be specific to AIA. It could just be things you're interested in, people you're talking to. I'm just curious from your point of view, because this has come up in conversations with people in my circles, which is, okay, if you were going to start a firm today, like, as you mentioned that a minute ago, right? You talk about like these, if people are going to start, like, where do they start? It's a wildly different set of tools. And I'm not looking for specific names of any startup or tool company or anything. I'm just curious about the topic in general, and I'm hoping that this is happening at a national level. But like a lot of times we hear, okay, well, you could incrementally get better at this thing if you adopt this tool, and you could get a little bit better here if you adopt this, or you could get maybe a lot better if you just implement this in this specific thing. But none of that is like a holistic, okay, what if we were starting from scratch? And so I'm just curious if those conversations are happening in your circles as well, because I think it's important that they are happening so that we acknowledge, because I recently had Patrick Chopson from Cove on the podcast, right? And they started up Cove Architecture, which is starting with, an AI tool set. And obviously they're software developers and they're coming from, a different cut of cloth, right? Let's just put it that way. They're not coming from 20 years of practice and going from hand drafting to CAD to BIM and then adding tools and replacing tools and they did something else and now they're doing this, and they're starting at zero at a very high level, right? Of being able to deliver projects in a different way. And so I'm curious if you're having these kinds of conversations in your circles, because what I don't want us to do is think like every firm just needs to get a little bit better, because the firms who are focused on getting a little bit better, they're established, right? Maybe they want to make something a little bit better, but they're going to be competing against firms or technology companies who are coming at this from a completely different perspective. Are those conversations happening?
It is, but you have to remember, I shift hats, and I'm more involved in on the software development side that I'm with the customers. In fact, in my role, I sit between marketing, product development, and strategy. And this is the people I have conversation on a daily basis. They rely on the expertise I have from industry to have informed discussions on where and how the product needs to evolve in a better way. But pretty soon, my domain expertise will be easily. I, I'm no longer doing projects, and I'm no longer building designs.
Right.
And the technology I was exposed to 5 years ago, it's very suddenly being challenged by the new paradigm of AI and process improvement facilitated.
Disruptive technology is like the hockey curve graph, right? Like the hockey stick.
But I can tell you that the conversation, at least from the domains that I'm part of, have and you've seen the announcement. I don't know if you're familiar with the announcements of that Autodesk has done around AI at Autodesk University. This is shifting. We're at an inflection point in the software industry where, because it's so fast and it's easy to produce software, that it's an enormous opportunity to put in the market fresh value propositions that look at the design life cycle problems and challenges from a new, fresh perspective. And there's no big solution that I've seen in the industry yet that can address it. But there's a race to get there from many fronts, and I think it's, and I'm speaking as myself here, not as an Autodesk employee. I think the market and the ability to develop software solutions using AI agents and AI technology that writes software, it provides enormous opportunities for new players that can challenge the traditional players in the industry. And I think, from a personal perspective, uh, that is a positive thing for the industry. So I expect
Disruptive too.
it's very
Right.
disruptive.
Yeah, I mean, just in the last 2 weeks, we've seen developments from the biggest AI companies in the world come out with new ways to write code and through agents and, with Claude and OpenAI both coming out with products where these systems can autonomously write code from anywhere from, let's just say, 7 hours to 70 hours of codings, and with just people checking in every once in a while to, just course correct. And that's an incredible change from before 2 weeks ago, right? Alone, let alone 5, 10 years ago. So the ability to produce software is changing radically. And so new, fresh ideas can get brought to the market and tested much sooner. And I just think this is a fascinating conversation to have. Like, if you were starting a practice of architecture today, what would that look like? Because I think you would actually project out in 5 years or 10 years, if you even could, and say, well, when I wake up on, the day 5 years from now, this is what it looks like. It looks wildly different than it even does today, but you can still ask that question today. And the tool stack that you would use to run a practice of architecture is wildly different from what it was just a few years ago, if you want it to be, right? It doesn't, of course, you don't have to. You could just start with all of the usual suspects in your software toolbox, right? But you could also choose a wildly different toolbox than most people would who are coming from, growing up in this profession, right? Establishing their career in this, because it takes a long time to establish a career in this profession. So, to become an architect takes years and years and years of experience. And it's like, oh, well, what if we look at this from a fresh perspective? I think it's a fascinating conversation. And I hope it's happening all over the place because it's a reality now. And firms that exist are going to be competing against firms who are just starting, and they could choose a completely different way to go about delivering projects.
Yeah, and that conversation is happening within my own company. I mean, Autodesk has uh, it's really focused on be able to deliver and scale AI across not only our new offerings like Forma and ACC, but take the best out of our desktop products and connect them via AI agents in the cloud. And those conversations are happening, and development is happening very fast. And announcements are expected to happen very soon. So I think it's an inflection point, not only from the software development industry, but also for practitioners. And I think, I mean, earlier I was talking about the need to have this toolkit to inform new practices about how to take advantage of the technology. But this toolkit, the challenge is that by the time you finish the toolkit, there will be a new set of tools ready to go.
I know. As soon as you even advise somebody, there's a new list, right?
There's a new list, exactly.
It is moving so fast. And at some level, you kind of have to take your bet and go with it and put it through its paces and learn through the failures and learn through the successes. But I think it's super interesting to think about like the amount of times you are now going to have to go back and look at things again and look at them again because the landscape is changing so quickly. The tool that you looked at 6 months ago that didn't do a thing, and so you decided to get rid of it, now does the thing, right? And so it's really amazing how fast that kind of feedback loop is going to have to keep going back on itself to check and check and check and check and just keep an eye on things. Like a part of everybody's day or week is going to have to be dedicated to just like what's going on in the software field of architecture and how can it work to my advantage, or where is it headed that I need to keep an eye on it. I think it is a fascinating discussion.
Yeah, and I mean and this is something I've discussed with my peers at TAP, is that I mean we are all most leadership is almost the same years of experience and the same cohort of experience. But in order to make it more effective, I think we need to bring fresh eyes on how where we may be missing as a committee. Are there perspectives from new graduates with AI who grew up with machine learning technology, who are fresh out of school with AI tools? We want to bring that perspective here, and I think I encourage people to join this conversation with all the people like me in order to discover these new opportunities that we might be blind, that may be in front of us, but we are blind as well.
How does that make you feel, Cesar?
I'm just ready to retire in 5 years.
Yeah.
No, I think
we promised never to be those guys, right? Like, the old regime just can't wait to that's somebody else's problem. There's a wave coming. Yeah, it's real.
No, I think there is an increased place for discussion around technology that is not going to disappear. And I think the best we can do, and you're proof of this, is bring people to the table to discuss their viewpoints, how that informed and how that changed my perspective on how our approach of technology is. And that, I think it can only happen with a diverse group of individuals and viewpoints, and that help us illuminate the path. We need to break our traditional trust circles and be open to new ideas that may be happening outside that can define or redefine how technology will evolve.
Yeah. Have those conversations out in the open. Yeah, agreed. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to kind of explain what's going on with TAP right now and what's coming with TAP. I'm pretty excited because it sounds like you guys really are addressing the larger field of, smaller firms and accessible technology to those firms so that we raise all boats with the tide, right? That to me is super important in this industry and in this profession. So appreciate the work you're doing. And I'll put links to how you can get in contact, listeners, with Cesar in the show notes for this episode. And Cesar, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Evan, and glad to be here.
Thanks to our sponsors, and thanks to our members this week. Find out how you can become a member at trxl.co. And I'll talk to you again next week.